Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily with I'm Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Chrysan. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. TK joins us over at Court Street Cafe. You've heard us talk about it for years, just over the Mississippi River Bridge, literally about 4 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge. First exit, hang a right. Third light, hang a right. Boom, you're there. Also, we're presented by, of course, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, an undisclosed location, rocking the LA Sports Hall of Fame polo today. Go to lasportshall.com, and it'll be here before you know it. The Hall of Fame induction weekend last weekend in June. Plus, we have our St. Patrick's Day auction coming up in about 3 weeks. We'll tell you more about that as we get a little bit closer. Our online auction, lots of great stuff for you to participate and help support Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Over the weekend, TK, the Tigers shocked everyone. They lost the game, the first game of a doubleheader on Saturday. They're now 6-1. They lost to the University of Omaha, Nebraska. I think it's not so much that LSU lost a baseball game that has everybody shocked. No one's going ever in the history of college baseball is going undefeated in Division I, so that's not like going to happen, especially in the SEC. But how they got beat and the storyline behind that got beat is really the story that is giving LSU baseball fans a little bit of pause, and maybe even concern for the future.
Well, there were no hit through 7 innings, and an LSU team that's on paper and ranked like this one is shouldn't be no hit through 7 innings. I think 10 of their first 11 outs were flyouts. Yeah, wind was blowing in, a little heavy cold air, ball not going anywhere, and they just didn't have some good at bats. They hit a few balls hard, not many. Then they had down 5-0 going to the bottom of the ninth, got the winning run on base, and the rally got cut short a little bit. So I was a little confused. I mean, there's no bats. The at bats were bad, and it just didn't work for them in that first game. Now they bounced back, which is a sign of a good team. And like you said, we know they're not going to go undefeated, but it's how they lost. And you might want to just kind of throw that one in the memory bank.
Well, the thing about this team you mentioned, all the fly balls. Last year, LSU hit 114 homers in 66 games. Okay, so almost 2 home runs a game they hit. So far this year, just to look at it, they have 5 home runs in 7 games. So I mean, you're talking about on pace at 1 home or less, per game. And usually these are the games where you get a bunch of homers, right? Again, non-conference pitching and stuff like that. And yeah, we know last year's team had Tommy White, but he didn't make up for all those homers. They still have Jones. It's just this team, when you watch it through 7 games, they are not going to hit with a lot of power. It is what it is. It's going to be interesting to see how Jay Johnson coaches this year's team and morphs them. He hates to steal. He's not a big stealer. Doesn't run a lot in general. It's not his bag. He's a guy who gets hit by a lot of pitches, walks a lot, doubles, homers, plays for the big inning in that fashion. Curious to see if he forces himself to hit and run more, or to bunt more, or to steal more, because you're not going to be able to just sit back and see crooked numbers on the board all year long. It was no more the fact than what they did on Saturday when they had in that game where there were no hit through 7 innings. They had the bases loaded twice in the first and second inning and got no runs. I mean, and look, they're only 7 games in, and there's 56 regular season games to go. But again, we're talking about the bar for LSU baseball is Omaha, national championships, all that. So we expect them to be better. These guys are getting paid. These guys had a fall. These guys had a spring. I mean, it's not like they just came together. And the ones that didn't come through, Larson and Milam, in the ninth, when LSU had a tremendous rally and went down 5-0 in the ninth, came back 4 runs. They got the tying run over at third base, and Larson and Milam don't get them in. That's disappointing because those are 2 guys who were freshman All-Americans a year ago, and you would expect them to take a step forward and get it done. So definitely pause, because you kind of expected LSU would roll this weekend and take care of business and not be challenged until Wednesday. But then at the same time, Tommy, they showed a good response, dominated in the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday. Probably felt good for them to play a second game of a doubleheader, not have to go home, sleep about it, talk about it, come back the next day, able to just get over it, after flush it after about an hour or 2 delay. And then they dominated University of Omaha. the pitching minus 2 innings in the game they lost and 1 inning in the game they won. Looks right on par, dominant, good stuff.
Well, and in the first two games, they left 21 guys on base. And you talked about the bases loaded in first and second inning. I don't care if you're playing Omaha. I don't care who you're playing. You can't leave 21 guys on base in two games. 10 one game, 11 the other. I mean, you've got to. It'll be interesting, as you said, if Jay Johnson tweaks his philosophy a little bit there, does some hitting and running, and some other. He's got more speed than he probably had last year, top to bottom. Maybe start running a little bit, but usually the other team's got a catcher that can throw pretty well. I don't care if it's Purdue, Fort Wayne, or which they had a guy with a gun, and I thought one of the catchers from Omaha threw pretty well as also. So the steal is so valuable, but getting caught stealing can be deflating. We'll see how that plays out.
TK, a stat that jumps out, and we've talked plenty about the pitching, and we all pause a little bit because of the competition, and we'll find out more this week. They play Wednesday over in Arlington, over at Texas Ranger Stadium against DBU, Dallas Baptist University, who is a team that is always competing for regionals and hosting regionals and things like that. By the way, DBU will be at the Raging Cajuns next weekend. That'll be a big series in Lafayette. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they travel to Lafayette. And by the way, speaking of the Cajuns, congratulations. They responded tremendously. They lost the opening game against Nebraska at home on Friday and then swept a doubleheader on Saturday. And Nebraska was ranked in the top 25 coming into that weekend. So big series win for the Raging Cajuns. That's a good resume win when it gets down to the wire. If they need help, if they don't win their conference tournament, and they need help getting in, that's the type of the series win that'll go a long way, potentially in May. But get back to LSU, DBU Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Kansas State up in Frisco in a little tournament north of Dallas. Kansas State, then they take on Nebraska on Saturday, then they got Sam Houston on Sunday. So a better week coming up. We'll get a little more tests, and we'll see what they're all about. But how about these numbers, Tommy? 61 innings pitched so far for LSU through 7 games. They have a 1.33 earned run average as a staff. They've only walked 13 in those 61 innings and have struck out 88. That is nearly a 7-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio as a staff. You're happy if your staff strikeout to ratio is 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 is excellent. 7-to-1 almost is sick. So that won't continue, but I feel good about, because they throw so many strikes with so many different arms. There's guys like, Gavin Guidry hadn't pitched yet. There's other players that haven't even pitched yet. Of the 12 we've seen or 13 we've seen, whatever number, they all are impressive. They all are pro prospects, and they all seem to, for the 95% of the time, throw strikes.
Well, competition gets a little stiffer, starting tonight with Nichols, who swept Little Rock over the weekend. And then, as you mentioned, it's the Wednesday and then the Friday, Saturday, Sunday road games. So it's going to get a little tougher. That 7-to-1 ratio, I don't think will maintain it. So I don't think next Monday when we're doing Sports George Daily that it'll still be 7-to-1. And it certainly won't be when they get into SEC play, which is still a little bit down the road, but not all that far. So, again, it's a small sample size. There's a lot of baseball yet to be played.
5-2 is the Nichols Colonels record. That game will be at 6:00 tonight. You can hear it, of course, on the radio, and you can watch it on the ESPN Plus app, SEC Plus network. I'll be on the call with Lynn Rollins tonight. Looking forward to seeing the Colonels in action.
Are you looking forward more to seeing the Colonels or Lynn Rollins?
Colonels, yeah, Colonels. I've talked to Lynn plenty. Yeah.
Okay, I know. I love listening to you and Lynn, or Lynn and Ben. I love listening to that. So I'm going to miss the first part of the game tonight due to something at school, but about the second inning on, I'll be tuned in.
Yeah, Lynn, a lot of people don't realize Lynn lives in Auburn, Alabama. He actually did a game last week, Auburn and Troy, on for them on the ESPN. For ESPN, had a walk-off. Auburn won on a walk-off bottom of the ninth against Troy. He was on the call. But, yeah, Lynn has been living over at Auburn for 3 or 4 years now. His daughter lived there and grandbaby and all that, so they were going there all the time. Both he and his wife retired, so they decided years ago to relocate to Auburn. and he'll drive in. Usually, he does other sports for LSU, not just baseball. Obviously, he'll do basketball and gymnastics and soccer and things like that. And so softball. And so a lot of times he comes, he'll piggyback. But when it's just over, he'll stay the night at the Lod Cook Hotel right on LSU's campus, and then head back. I think it's about a 6-hour drive, 6.5-hour drive, something like that each way. And he's just used to it. He gets in his car, he starts making phone calls. So that's usually when I hear from him. All right. Speaking of softball, how about what the Tiger soft ladies are doing?
14-0. I mean, you play 14 games, you win 14 games. Now they head out west this week for a tournament at Cal State Fullerton, and I'm going to guess there. I'm not a softball guru, but I'm going to guess the competition will be a little bit stiffer. But Beth Torina once again, off to a super start, 14-0. You can't when you play 14, you win 14. That's a super start.
Speaking of another superstar, how about the LSU men's basketball team on Saturday against Florida, a top 3 team in the country? They off to a super start. They're leading by 6 or 7 at halftime, Tommy, and then all of a sudden it's like Cinderella struck midnight. I feel like this team, LSU men's team, is always going to play a really good half. Don't know if it's the first half, don't know if it's the second half, but they're going to give you a good half for sure every game. It's just you just don't know which, and unfortunately, sometimes it's not enough to win the game just playing one really good half.
Well, yeah, you got to play 2 halves, 9 times out of 10. I guess against a lesser opponent, you can get away with a bad half, but yeah, they got to figure that out. I mean, they played as good as they could possibly play. Maybe their best half of baseball was the first half the other night against Florida, leading by 6. We're on a 22-2 run. I mean, basketball's a game of runs. We all know that. But 22-2 against the number 2 ranked team in the country, that's pretty impressive. But I don't know if they can win another SEC game on their schedule. They got to host Tennessee tomorrow night. Tennessee's a 1 or a 2 seed in the tournament, but they just gotta learn, and figure out ways to get better.
Yeah, that was. By the way, for those of us, I don't know. I had -9.5. I took Florida. Did you have? You had 10 and a
I
half.
had a 10.5 minus, yeah, so I made it. I got in there with it.
Yeah, LSU lost by 14. Don't know what the line is yet tomorrow. But needless to say, Tommy and I will be on the Tennessee side or whatever the line is. It's just, I hate to do that, but it just,
When you make a bet, you do that to try to win. Okay.
Yeah.
When you make a bet, you're trying to win. You're not worried about purple and gold or green and gold. You're worried about trying to win your wager.
LSU women had a big win on the road. Remember, we told you on Saturday on Sports Shorts Radio, that they had a couple of ranked opponents in a row on the road, and one of them they got a victory at Kentucky at a mid third quarter. And again, this is a team with a gaudy record. I don't know. I think Kim Mulkey and them are 27-2, 28-2, something like that. They just, but they don't have like those real big resume wins per se. They lost on the road to Texas, lost on the road to South Carolina. Those are the ones that would have gotten people's attention had they won one of them. The rest of the schedule is kind of but this is a good one. Anytime you can win on the road, you get brownie points, and against a ranked opponent, you get brownie points. Now they get a chance to do it again this week against at Bama on Thursday, another ranked team.
Yeah, well, Kentucky's a good team. They were 13-1 at home going into that game, so they were tough to play them in Lexington. And the big third quarter, 21-4 advantage in the third quarter for Mulkey's team, and that ended up being a difference. Although it was a little tight down the stretch, but they were able to pull away.
We'll talk plenty more about LSU baseball on Wednesday. We'll dive into the numbers and all that kind of stuff. As far as players from last year, how they're doing this year. And we'll have more to talk about after tonight's game against Nichols. We'll be 8 games in, so the stats will start to straighten out a little bit. Bregman, though, former Tiger, what a great start for him with the Red Sox.
Yeah, he started at third base in his first game, and he went 3 for 3 with a home run, a double, and a single. And looked like the Alex Bregman of 3-4 years ago, and maybe a little juice because he's wearing the Red Sox uni now. And their minor league park is similar to. It's got a wall like at Fenway, and they got the little thing that juts out right center. kind of like a copy thing or whatever. But he had a big day and he played at third. We talked a couple of episodes ago about, when he signed with the Red Sox, Rafael Devers, their third baseman, who's a lot younger than Bregman, said, "Hey, it's my position. I'm not swapping." Well, Alex Cora kind of danced around that topic and then was able to, start Bregman at third base in his first game. And, we'll see what happens. That'll be an interesting story, especially because a lot of fans around here are going to follow the Bregman thing with the Red Sox. So we'll see how that continues to roll.
Well, the spring training, I like how they at spring training they have the ballpark for the dimensions, so they get used to it, and people expect that Bregman's going to bang a bunch of balls off that left field monster. And look, if you're the Red Sox, I mean, at some point you got to look at trying to trade Devers, because if you think Bregman's your guy at third and you're hell bent on that, and you're not, then you have to trade him. And he's already had a press conference with an interpreter, and I watched the press conference, and he did an interview, and he was hell bent on. They asked me what I thought about DHing. I said I didn't want to. I didn't like it. I want to play third. I play third. He didn't back off of it. He didn't sugarcoat it. He seems like, I didn't get the feeling he was all of a sudden going to wake up the next day with a great attitude and be this team player and play me wherever you want, coach, as long as I'm in the lineup, can help the team. Like, that ain't ever coming out of his mouth. So that said, I don't know where you go from here. You already told them day one, hey, Bregman's at third. I mean, that's the ultimate. Like, you didn't even try to sugarcoat it. You didn't let him play a few games at second for a little while, whatever. No. Day one, third. I mean, there you go. Like, shut up. Okay, so what do? You're paying this guy. He's one of your main guys, and all of a sudden you're taking his position. I don't think he's going to be – I just don't see this being a solution. I think they got to almost figure out a way to trade him. The Pels win a big one last night to go 14-43 on their record. Oh. They knock off the Spurs in an upset. Every time they win, it's an upset. But how about this, Tommy? The Pels are at home on Thursday night against those same Spurs. It's their last home game before they go on the road for a few because of Mardi Gras. I looked this up because I was curious last night. Last night you could have gone on SeatGeek and bought a ticket with all the fees included, and we know the fees are like 30% or whatever when you buy, tickets. The ticket price $8. You could watch an NBA game. Now, they might go down between them. I'm telling you, last night, 4 days before the game, you could have bought tickets for $8 to an NBA game featuring Wembanyama and the Spurs and the Pels and all that, on Thursday night. It costs $8 to go to a Rougarou game. Okay? Now, $5 for kids, 12 and under. But the point is that, like, that's how far the Pels have fallen.
Well, Wembanyama's out for the year. He's got a blood clot in his shoulder, so won't even get to see him. But
then the tickets will be $3, Tommy.
Yeah, they're going to be $3, maybe $3.50, right? You're better off at a Rougarou game. Trust me.
Yeah. It's just shocking where the Pels are with everything. Also, you told me one last thing before we get out of here. The NFL's looking at a couple of rule changes or something, possibly.
The competition committee is looking at the kickoff thing, which was new last year. Okay, I don't need to try to describe it here. They're looking at a couple of tweaks to that, and they're also concerned about that basically the onside kick was taken out of the game because you got to tell the other team and all that stuff. They're talking about getting a 4th and 20 from your own 30-yard line, where if you convert that, that'd be like converting an onside kick back in the day, the old days. So this is just the competition committee toying with some things. There's an NFL owners meeting coming up shortly. All that would have to get voted on. But I think they're going to back up the kickoff spot to try to encourage a few more returns. I think the average return got out to the 29-yard line last year. And if it's a touchback, it's the 30-yard line. That's no difference. Okay. It's a game of inches, but that 1 yard at the beginning of the game or after a kickoff is not that big of a difference.
The 4th and 20 I'm interested in. One of the caveats I'm curious to see if they end up implementing it is, okay, what happens if the defense gets a score? What if they strip fumble? What if they pick off an interception? What if they take it to the house, like I said, on a fumble or an interception?
What?
Do they get 6 points? Do they get 2
Yeah.
points? Do they get no points?
I would think yes, that you would. I don't know the answer. I'll have to look that up. But I think you would, because if you can get, can you score in the NFL on a 2-point conversion attempt? I guess I got to look that up. And that would be, hopefully it's something that would be covered if this gets in front of the owners and it gets voted on. And they got a couple of NFL writers. I follow their stuff a good bit. And I'll check that out so we can comment with a little more knowledge.
I'd be interested to see what happens on the on the 4th and 20 if that ever happens, because if the answer is no, the defense cannot score at all on an interception return for a touchdown or a fumble return for a touchdown, then the offense can be a little more carefree, right? They can just throw it up for grabs. They can, if they're running the ball, throw it over their shoulder and just start doing the Cal Stanford, lateral stuff. That's what's going to happen. But if you have rules where, hey, defense can score points if they take it the other way, then that changes your attitude a little bit.
Carl Dunn says they get 2 points, but I'm gonna trust Carl. 6 points on an interception. Okay, so we'll have to get the clarification on that as how that will go, especially if they make a change or they put in that 4th and 20 thing.
All right, we'll be back on Wednesday morning for more Sports Shorts Daily. Of course, we'll deep dive a little more into LSU baseball and their stats and individual players and who's hot and who's not. We'll get into that on Wednesday morning. Obviously, they play Nichols tonight, and we'll have a little bit more info to pass on to you. And then DBU Wednesday night, first big game. It'll be really cool to watch that game and to see LSU playing at Arlington, the home of Josh Smith and the Texas Rangers, Tommy's favorite team. For Tommy Christ and I'm Ronnie Rance. TK on the way out. Tell us about Court Street Cafe in Port Allen.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner here at Port Allen. Lunch specials, dinner specials, steak night on Saturday nights. They got a Sunday brunch that's famous. You need to check them out. Jason and the staff do a great job here. 805 Court Street in Port Allen, a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. To your right to Port Allen, you're here. And again, breakfast, lunch, dinner, full-service bar right behind me. You want a cold one on the way home after work. They really do a great job here. They got weekly dinner specials, nightly specials. Connect on Facebook and Instagram for all that. As you mentioned, Ryan, we've been coming over here for years, and we appreciate the people that have stopped by Court Street Cafe. And hopefully, if you haven't done it yet, you can get it on your schedule. All right, that's going to do it for this Monday episode of Sports Shorts Daily. We'll be back Wednesday morning. I'm Tommy Christ. Have a great day, everyone.